I can see an innate desire, sword in hand, warriors side by side. I can feel it, it burns like fire. Worlds collide, an unstable landscape, side by side. But that's what this man digs. Be it might, and unlikely allegiance. We will fight because that's the best defense. No turning back, for such is our path. Is clear as we ride against a dark empire. By my soul, may the last thing they hear be the roar of this raging fire. Listen, be the savagery mindset. Night and day, we'll let loose and find it. Brutal will define our reaction. Rip out the throat of each one in perfection. No turning back, for such is our path. This day we find the glory.
Gooding Services has a bundle for all budgets. You can be fully protected with emergency response for just $49.99.
Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me. This is, of course, another episode of Braxcast Live, coming at this, doing this on a Sunday, but got almost 10 people, 8 people in here right now, which is small for a lot of YouTubers, but it's big for me. So you guys might like Sundays more than Fridays, might work with your schedules better, but I do like the Friday time slot, so we'll see. But I'm going to probably be going back to Fridays for now. But this week, Sunday worked out better for me. So we're doing this, of course, on a Sunday, but we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Primarily, Rippazine #5 launched today. And of course, we're going to experience the fulfillment of Yaira #3 starting tomorrow. And I just got the email, of course, Andrew left the comment on the Braxcast I did yesterday that Rippazine 4 will be fulfilling next week. And it seems like it'll be fulfilling starting on Wednesday because the deadline to lock your address down is 5 p.m. Central on Tuesday, which leads me to believe that they'll start shipping out everything on Wednesday morning. So, of course, the Rippaverse is speeding up, as, of course, Andrew is saying that it is. We've got Rams going to catch a replay after Mass, so hopefully you have a good Mass. I did go to liturgy this morning, so I'm free to do this live stream. But hopefully you have a good Mass. Hopefully God blesses your day and the rest of your week. Looking forward to Yair Free. Of course, we got Garfield in the chat. Always nice to see him. Of course, we got Genuine Comics, and I am behind on some reviews I have because I want to do Crossworlds. I got them back here. So the second, not Crossworlds, Power Trip issue 2 and Dream Girl #1. I put those on the docket to review this month, but got to get the Battle Beast. I'm going to do Yaira #3. I got Horseman #1. Always get those Rippaverse reviews out as soon as I possibly can because I always get so hyped for them. And Horseman #1 was fantastic. Like, after I read, I like slammed it down. I was so angry. It's like, you can't leave it there, Chuck. You can't leave it there and not give me that second issue right away. It was just such a good cliffhanger. It was such a fantastic book. But it's really nice to see you in the chat. Dave Brink from Genuine Comics, and Battle Beast 4 is coming soon. I'm aware. I haven't read #3. I was able to get #3 because I just moved to the city of Manchester, and I have my local comic book shop. And I was there like sometime last week, and I was looking for #3 because I have 1 and 2. Couldn't find #3, but I went to Newberry, and they had #3, so I was able to get #3, and I know #4 is coming out on the 20th. So this Wednesday I'll go, before I have to go to work because I work nights, so my job starts at 4, so I should be able to go after if I can, if I feel like hitting the gym, if I got up early enough and I'm fresh and frisky enough, then I will hit the gym. Then right after the gym, I will go to the comic book store and hopefully I can get myself a copy of Battle Beast #4, and then I'll review 3. I want to review 3 before 4 releases, and then I'll review 4, and then I'll do of course, Dave's Comics, and I'll get Yaira #3 out. Yes. If you want me to if you want to derail the stream, just talk about the Roman Empire. Not before we do some stuff about Rippaverse. Before I start talking about how Marcus Aurelius was able to hold the Danube River against during the Macromonic Wars. But you're already starting this on me, and of course. As Caffeinated Wolf says, or Doku or NDA Andrew is congrats on Genuine Comics. Swift funding on his latest project. And before we get into Rippazine #5, definitely want to mention that because I just backed this, and I got in on issue #6, so we can share this tab instead. We can add this to the stage. If I'm getting it correctly. No. I'm like, it's an absolute disaster here. Oh yeah, so we'll move that and there we go. Okay, it's almost like I know what I'm doing, but this is of course Perfect 10 issue #6. It also includes the trade paperback for Perfect 10. And we'll put this on the full screen because you guys, look at Pow's fantastic art. So of course, Pow is the series artist for Genuine Comics, and this did hit its backer goal. It's in the decently low four figures, but this is only after one day. So $2,400 raised. So really good. Definitely, honestly, Genuine Comics should be making six figures a campaign with how good their stuff is, especially Perfect 10. Of course, I've reviewed every issue of Perfect 10. So I believe, the first four issues as an overview, and then I think 4 and 5 I've done as their own standalone reviews. So if you are interested in um, Genuine Comics, you can check out the reviews I've done of his stuff, and it's fantastic stuff. I can't praise him enough for the work that he's doing over there. And of course, this is going to be the last issue of Perfect 10 for a while. We want to be doing other stuff, but I certainly love where 5 left off everything, and 6 is going to hopefully give us a pretty good wrap up. And I do want to get that trade paperback one day, but it just wasn't in the budget. I'm already like kind of over budget on comic books, but it's okay. I definitely got in on the 6th issue of this, so I will be reviewing this when it gets out. He's good about getting stuff fulfilled, and he's definitely probably the best European that understands American comics, and he has a great team of people he works with in terms of like his artists, colorless letters. They all do top-notch stuff, and I'm really excited to see where he takes stuff going forward. And hopefully we get more American Bliss, because I like that first issue. I liked where it was going. Definitely need to get more American Bliss. So there's a lot of stuff with the Genuine Verse that Dave can focus on if he's going to be taking a break from Perfect 10 for a while. And I think American Bliss should be one of those things. Also, Chernobyl. I loved him as a villain, and we haven't seen him in a while. So it's definitely a lot of really cool stuff. Wanted to give a shout out to Dave Brink from Genuine Comics, because he does, like I said, fantastic work. You guys should definitely check him out. And I will put the link here in the chat. So you guys want to check that out like that. And there's that. And of course, Dave, if you want to talk Rippaverse, you want to talk anything, I can share the link with you. I believe we are. So, but no pressure. If you're, I know it's late in the, no problem, Dave. I know it's late where you're at because, time zone differences, but I DM'd you a link on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. So you want to pop in for a minute, talk about Perfect 10. If not, we are going to go talking about Rippazine number 5, because that is the big Rippaverse news of the week. Of course, we've got the character of Blue Shift. I'd love to get Andrew on to talk about his project, since he's the writer of this short story, but I'm not sure if that's in the cards for him. But it would be nice to have especially because I've interviewed him before, and I know Andrew is he's sitting there, but we ought to get in the DMs and have me and have you and I, or you and me, or whatever, can't speak today, can't ever speak, to do a for me to interview Andrew about Blue Shift, like just as Rippazine 5 comes out. That would be fantastic. I would love for that to be the case. If we could make that happen, not just do a live stream but have a more structured interview that's pre-recorded, and I have that go up as an episode of Braxcast, and I've done that before. You see, so Dave hasn't read Horseman yet. I've read Horseman number 1. Really, really good stuff. Of course, there's Welcome to Flores Park, which is the one shot that's basically a prequel to Horseman number 1. And as CJ says, Horseman number 1 is a really good book. It's 56 pages, so it's probably about 2 issues, or you could consider it to be like as long as a really big double issue of a typical floppy would be. And it really gives a good establishment to the ongoing series for Horseman. But just as it's really getting in, because there's a lot of exposition, there's a lot of character development, there's a lot of establishing work that Chuck does in this first issue. And since it's a first issue, you would expect that to be the case. But just as we're at the point where Horseman, Hector's back to being the Horseman, is when it ends. It's continued in Horseman number 2. And like I said, I was enraged when that happened. I was so, I wouldn't say disappointed, but I was just so oh my God. It was just, I just wanted that second issue, man. That's what I want. But that's such a great feeling when you get a comic. is when you want that second issue. When you need to know what happens next, that's when you know you've read a good comic. So, Sir Book Sage is in the chat. I've seen you before. Nice to have you aboard. So, Garfield is saying, a reviewer I just watched put forth an interesting theory involving Kyle Buxton. What if he's the one that Patty is dating? Certainly is a possibility. Who knows? Of course, Patty just mentioned that offhand. As like, oh, I'm dating someone, just a couple of dates. I don't think Cal's that sort of guy that's going to be going and mingling with like, average people. Like if he's going to be like dating and schmoozing, he's probably going to be going to like those hotels where he gets like really, where rich people get really high class escorts and all those sorts of things. Happy to do both. Fantastic. So if you're in the, I'm not sure if you're here right now. If you are, then I would be able to add you to the stage like really quickly. But I don't necessarily see you. So if you're waiting on stage, then I would add you to the stage. But yeah, it'd be fantastic to interview you for Rippazine number 5, talking about Blue Shift. But we ought to talk about Blue Shift right now, and I think the best way to really start with talking about Blue Shift is to go and let's see here. We'll go and watch the trailer, and it actually features a voice actor for, Jason Griffith, who apparently has done work for Sonic, which is really, really cool. I know Andrew's a fan of Sonic, and of course, with this being a speedster, that's fantastic. But let's watch this trailer, then we'll go over the collection page, and we'll nerd out about Rippazine 5, and of course, we'll get derailed as we usually do. But that's the whole fun of live streaming and nerding out about comics. But let's get into this Rippazine number 5 trailer for Blue Shift's tryouts.
My name is Zephyr Arlen, and I'm doing something stupid. My family, we've got a secret, and I've never been allowed to attend normal school before now because of it. Mom and Dad say high school can be a bit of a culture shock, but how bad can it really be? After all, getting up to speed is something I do best. I know they're worried, but I can be careful. Only time will tell if this is the worst idea ever. Oh, sparks and bolts! Or the very best idea ever. I can't help but wonder, though, can I be something more? I guess we can give this a tryout.
Okay, so Andrew's got the link. You can join for a bit in a join for a bit in a few. That's fantastic. Would love to just talk for a little bit, but I'll give my own commentary here, which will probably not be as interesting, but hopefully you guys will bear with me. First of all, I love this logo here, and then secondly, art is fantastic. Like I love this character design. Of course, there was some drama going on about a comic book from Shadow of Vengeance Comics named Blue Shift, although Blue Shift is also an astronomical phenomenon. So I don't think it's something that, one, has been trademarked, and two, I don't think it can be. So I think those characters can coexist. And there's like another comic named Blue Shift as well. So it's not something that's been hardcore copyright. It's not like if, they put out something called like the Cool Flash or the Fast Flash or something like that. And it did some legitimate, or like legitimate plagiarism of like DC's, Wally West or something like that. That would be much more cut and dry. This is more or less, seems to me more coincidental. Of course, if Andrew wants to get into that, I'd love to just talk about the general process of like trademarking, copyright, and how this applies to this, because stuff like this happens all the time. And of course, there's names I'm sure they've had to shirk away from because they've said, oh, this is a cool name, and then they realize the copyright, the trademark is with somebody else, and they can't use that. And that's happened all the time with creative projects where, corporate comes, where the lawyers come to the creative team and say, you can't name that because it'd be way too expensive to get the trademark from the people who own it. But absolutely love this art. Of course, I believe this art is from Edu Souza, if I'm getting the name correctly. And it's got, there's really, I love the, the thick lines, the cell shading. But I think the better way to show this off is we'll share this tab instead. This is, of course, the pre-order collection. And we've got the, $23,000 in sales, 912 books sold. So Rippazines typically tend to be smaller projects, but I mean, five figures is always something that's really hard to get into for indie comics, and Rippaverse does it really consistently, which I think is a pretty good sign of the and have the wrong thing showing up there. Sorry about that, guys. So want to do this window here, and of course we'll add that to the stage. And this is what I meant to do. I promise I know what I'm doing, guys. It only looks like I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing. But we've got, of course, this is taking place in North Flores Park High School. This is, of course, tryout. So you've got Zephyr Arlen. Again, this artist just, it really liked the style with this. Of course, this is, a subjective thing. You might not like the style, but it's got like this really classic American style. Colors are really bright and bold. The line work is thick. I always love those like thick lines. It just really makes it just stand out, makes everything very clear and distinct, and it just makes everything look very stylized. So you're having this character, Zephyr Arlen, who is a speedster. He's an accept, and it seems like his parents are as well. Of course, I'll try and pick Andrew's brain. I'll try and get him to spill the beans, but he's going to be very good at holding to his NDA, so I can't promise anything. But it will be really, really cool to get an insight into the high school environment. Of course, if you read Gooding, it's like, yeah, good luck, LOL. I'm not expecting anything odd to happen, but it'll be nice to pick your brain and have you, really be very vague about what's going to happen in this book. But the exciting thing, and talking about that right now, we've got the man himself, the writer for Blue Shift's tryouts. How are you doing today on this fine Sunday?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Doing pretty well. I'm pretty tired, but I'm doing well. So I can't really complain.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, of course, you are the writer for Blue Shift's tryouts. So, why don't you give an overview of what Rippazine #5 is in general, your short story, and then, like I said, if you're willing to talk about it, there is some stuff going on with this name Blue Shift being used for other comics. So, just talking in general about how trademarking and copywriting works in the comic industry, because I think that's an interesting discussion as well, not just the comic book stuff, but whatever you're comfortable talking about with, I'll give the floor to you.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Well, yeah, I am the creator and writer of Blue Shift, the latest short story, specifically Blue Shift Tryouts, which is that subtitle is actually, it has something to do with the story itself that takes place in this issue of the Rippazine. And Zephyr Arlen is a young teenager who, for the first time, he's being allowed to attend a normal school. There are a lot of reasons for that. One of them, you might surmise, is because he is an accept, but there's a lot more to it than just that. And he's being given this opportunity to finally attend a normal school, get to experience what it's like to be a teenager and things like that. There's very much meant to be a kind of coming of age arc to his character beginning in this. Now, I have a lot of stories that I would love to tell with this character, but this short story specifically is meant to set up his world, his supporting cast. I think people are going to really love a lot of the characters that are going to surround him, and not just be like characters that pop up every now and again. They've got a couple of lines to say, but these characters are actually going to be very integral to just about every single story that I tell with him to some degree or another down the road if I'm given the chance.
Oh yeah, fantastic. So Garfield's got an interesting theory. So there's Tina from Great War of Separation 2. She is a speedster. And her theory is that, she's a blonde speedster and she's around the correct age to be a mother with a teenage son. I don't think that's something that Andrew's neither going to confirm or deny. That is an interesting theory.
Interesting theory indeed.
Interesting theory indeed. But to me, the interesting thing is that this is the first, well, actually second time we see a school environment in the Rippaverse. Of course, Gooding the Polymath is a true origin for the character of Gooding, and that starts with his school life. But this will be really interesting to see, like, the modern day, post Great War, like how that high school environment is. Of course, this
Mhm.
is only going to be a 16 pager, but I think having a limited series for Blue Shift would be a really interesting thing on that basis, because I would love to see you just delve into this. And it seems like you got plans to do like actual character development, have a supporting cast. Those are fantastic things, because the main characters are always fun in books, but like Invincible is an interesting series because people love Adam Eve and their interactions. You know, people love Spider-Man because of MJ. People love Superman because of Lois Lane. So it's not just the title character, it's all the characters around them. And having that understanding of that like leads me to believe you'd be able to tell a lot of cool stories with this character. So of course I've got the track scene up here. So it seems like, you know, he's going to try out for the track team like Dash did in the Incredibles, and he's going to have to try and limit and hold himself back so he doesn't seem like he's, you know, this, you know, superpower freak. And that's going to be the interesting thing. That's going to be the crux of the story, of course, with the subtitle of tryouts. But anything else you're willing to say, you know, say it. But I'm sure you're not going to want to spill the beans too much, because this is, of course, you know, something that hasn't even come out yet. So it's going to be very much NDA, but I am excited to get into this one. So what do you want people to know going into this? What's the most important thing about Blue Shift that you think the fans ought to know that you can actually talk about?
Well, the most important thing to know is that he is intended to fill a hole that I saw that we had in our comic book universe. And that is the hole of a kind of young, relatable hero with a heart of gold. We needed a character that a younger audience could latch on to, not like necessarily talking little kids, but like, you know, your preteen and up. You know, character that people could grow with. And then as they mature, then they could be like, well, you know, I've been liking this character for a few years. Now I'm a little older. Maybe I'll check out Bloodruth. Maybe I'll check out Horseman and whatnot. And their parents could feel okay about that. That is one of the important things to know about this character. He is meant to be a heart of gold archetype, but that doesn't necessarily mean he always makes the right decisions. Sometimes you can have a heart of gold and you can make decisions out of the best of intentions, but those decisions are not the correct ones. And that is going to be an underlying theme through a few of the stories that I had planned. Now, whether or not I get to tell those stories is going to be really up to the fans and how they respond to Zine 5 in terms of how well it does, both obviously on the sales side, but also how you guys actually receive it after having read it and say, well, you know what, that was great. Give us more Blue Shift, Andrew. Or if y'all say, you know what, buddy, stick to the pigeons. So we'll see how that goes. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. I'm very proud of it. Front to back, I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this. I've been working on creating this character and the cast around him and his world building for a couple of years now. So it's been a while. It took my time building out everything and planning out a lot of things for his future. When I made my pitch to Eric, it wasn't that I was like, hey, here's this idea that I have for a 16-page short story. It was, no, here's this idea for a 16-page short story. Plus, I've already got multiple arcs planned out in my head and or maybe even written.
Yeah, no, I love stuff like that, because I can tell with reading Dirty Deeds that Carol had a lot more planned out than just that 16 pager.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's really nice that there's this whole archetype for this character. And of course, you know, it reminds me of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's heart is always in the right place, but he doesn't always know what to do. You know,
Well,
from
it's
my
interesting that you say that because Spider-Man is actually one of the two characters where a lot of his DNA comes from. Zephyr is actually very much a blend of a younger Spidey and Sonic. Those are the two primary influences on him as a character, but with my own spin on it.
Yeah, no, fantastic. So Mike has bad knees, and hello to him. He's a regular in the stream, so always nice to see him. Is the plan to keep him at a high school age? Should it get picked up for a series?
Yes, at least for a while. So as people who, you know, started with Amazing Fantasy 15 and read Peter's stories from the beginning over at Marvel, Peter wasn't in high school forever, but he was in high school for a little bit. And then he eventually went to college and yada, yada, became an adult, all that. My plan, and those who have read the campaign description, there's very deliberate wording in there. This is an early years introduction to the character. Now, should I get to continue telling stories with this character, the crux and bulk of his stories are actually not with him at this age. However, he will still be in high school.
Yeah, no, so I'm
So
right
he will
there.
be in high school for a minute.
Yeah, no, no, I like that. So, and I think like I said, one of the things that really jumped out to me is like, oh, high school, exploring a high school in Forest Park would be an interesting thing, and I'd love to see what the high school kids are gossiping about because there's a lot of stuff. It's like, what's Horseman doing? What's Saoirse doing? And I'm sure they'll make up all their own, gossip as teenagers like to do, especially in the high school environment. So just to have that in the Rippaverse and have like things that are mentioned and be like, you could have two kids talking about like what Alpha Core was doing in Alpha Core 1. It's like, if you want to know what Galvin is, read Alpha Core #1. I always love seeing those asterisks, and I'm at the point where like, oh yeah, I read that book, so I know what happened.
Keep Alpha Core in your mind when reading this story. Actually,
Oh,
there's a blink and you miss it line.
oh yeah, okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind. That's going to be a really, that's not NDAing yourself, right?
Nope.
Oh, okay. I was like, I felt like I was so close. But man, that is absolutely fantastic. But Garfield's got a theory, or at least he was presented with a theory from a reviewer that Cal was dating Patty to keep tabs on Hector's personal life, which is a really interesting thing. So we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. So let's see. I don't know, we've got other side of the fence saying the book went nowhere. Are you talking about? I'm not sure what he's talking about. But anyways. Anything else you can comment on with Blue Shift, the character, in terms of, I know there was, this whole, Shadow of Vengeance has their character Blue Shift, that book, but the general process of trademarking, copywriting, is that something you want to talk about right now? Because I think it's an interesting thing. I know that was something before ISOM 1 launched, they got into they had to do with getting the Rippaverse name trademark, getting, I'm sure, ISOM copyright and all that stuff. So is that something that you guys explored with Blue Shift to make sure there was?
There's a lot to unpack with that, but the short version is there actually isn't that much to say because Blue Shift is actually a astrophysics concept, and it cannot actually be trademarked. So the long and short of it is that it is a commonly used astrophysics name, and therefore it cannot be trademarked. That's
Yeah,
kind of the long and short of it. So.
yeah, that's the conclusion I came to, because Blue Shift refers to, like, in astrophysics, when you see something coming towards you, it's blue shift. When it's going away, it's red shift. That's
Correct.
how
It
astronomers know
deals with wavelengths and things
yeah,
like
it's
that.
how the astronomers know that the universe is expanding, because I think there's more red shift than blue
Mhm.
shift. So, other side of the fence is saying that ill-advised arc was about nothing. You're welcome to that opinion, but if you don't like the Rippaverse, I don't know why you're on a Rippaverse fan podcast.
He is welcome to his opinion.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, of course there is that. But anyways, want to, I think I think leaving it there is probably, I think the most succinct way to put it. But to get back to talking to the book in itself, I think is the thing that we really ought to do. I love this Zephyr poster. And of course, I decided to go a little bit crazy and get the I Want It All. So I think I'll get another
Oh,
post.
well, my
Yes.
goodness. Thank you.
Yeah, so I
Thank
was
you.
like,
Thank you.
oh man, I love that collection, collector's edition, every sort of thing. But this is a fantastic poster.
When Kane
So
and
this,
White showed me the finished line art on this, I screamed. And then I screamed again when my favorite colorist completed the colors on it. Because my favorite colorist in comics, like ever, colored this poster.
can you say who the colorist is?
Yeah, he's listed on the page, Andrew Dahlhaus.
Oh, Andrew Dahl. So I'm not familiar
There's
with them.
actually three Andrews worked on this project, actually.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm the creator and writer. Andrew Kramer is the colorist for the interiors, and then Andrew Dahlhaus was the colorist for this poster. So we were kind of like the AAA team.
Yeah,
They made
fantastic.
everything look cool, though. I just kind of made it up.
Yeah, no, but it's still, I think writers are still important, but of course the artists really bring stuff to life, especially in comics. And this is a really epic looking poster. So I love the character design. I love the logo. So I would definitely love to see like a Blue Shift character where he's living this double life, where he's trying to manage everything, because that's the interest of having like a high schooler be a superhero.
Well, something we
Um,
don't have in the Rippaverse yet, really. I mean, Hector does this back and forth, like trying to keep things from his family, but his family knows now, right?
yeah. So
Patty and Danny knew, they found out in Welcome to Florist Park that he's the horseman. So keeping things secret from everybody else is the challenge then there. So the whole secret identity bit is going to be integral moving forward, because
yeah,
that's a fun thing to explore and utilize when it comes to superheroes. I would be remiss not to lean into that.
yeah, no, and I think having like it from the perspective of a high schooler who's trying to manage like doing their homework and being a superhero and meeting the pretty girl, that I think, yeah, you see this. Of course, he's got the hearts in his eyes, so of course he's got a crush. I believe in the trailer we see probably who his potential crush is, and that's probably going to be his Mary Jane. Of course, you're not going to say anything about that, but I think a really interesting question is how do the membership redemptions count into the numbers? Of course, any tier of the Rippaverse membership you can get in on, and you can redeem a free copy of the Rippazine. Absolutely love that. So when that happens during the collection, does it count towards it? Does it not? I guess you would know how that works on the back end.
I've asked this question before, and I remember being given an answer. And I want to say that membership redemptions, now obviously they don't, since it's a free redemption, it definitely doesn't count towards the total sales. As far as whether or not they're counted in the numbers, I don't think so. But don't quote me on that, because I don't deal with the inventory stuff. I let other people that don't mind looking at numbers all day do that. I have zero interest in that. So I admittedly do not remember if I was told that it does or does not count towards the books sold. I want to say that it doesn't, because technically the book's not being sold if it's a membership redemption. And in fact, based on a conversation I had not long ago, that kind of reinforced that. So I want to say membership redemptions on the zines do not count towards that number, the book sold number.
Okay. I think that's a decently clear answer. So Sir Book Sage is saying he ordered that poster, and of course we were
Oh,
talking about
thank you.
yeah, this poster here, which again, fantastic. I need to get some more frames, and this is like a what, an 18 by 36? Like the
No,
size
this is a full 24 by 36.
24. I believe it's like the size of these posters, right?
Yes, yeah, it'll be our
Okay,
standard
so
size.
yeah, okay, yeah, those are fantastic. And I love those because they look so big and bright. And I finally like hung up all my reverse posters like a couple weeks ago at this
Yeah, I
point.
see that great ISOM 3 and the Yaira
Yeah,
one.
yeah, I got the Isom Free, I got the Yaira. In my kitchen, I've got the Zalen one by Kanan.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so that's where and I've got like the Great War Separation one. I believe that, yeah, that's also by Kanan. So I've got it like all decked out. I got like the Blood Roof, and I got a Yaira one in my bedroom. Let's see. So we've got I don't know. I don't know what else to talk about with this, but it's just really, really exciting. So I guess we can talk about, and what we ought to do is talk about the other things in the Rippazine 5 collection, because this is, of course, a 50-page Rippazine, and the Rippazine in itself is going to be more than just a short story. Of course, we've got Rippazine number 4 with Catch and Kill, so we can,
Mhm.
zoom out from Blue Shift, because I think, you're not going to want to talk about anything else. I think you've covered everything you can without getting into the
I'm happy to
NDA.
answer more questions,
Yeah.
but
So if yeah,
obviously I'm me, so I'm not going to give you too much just
yeah,
yet until you guys get
but
your hands on it.
yeah, exactly. So, but I want to talk about, since Ripazine 4 seems like it's going to be fulfilling this week.
That's the
And
goal, yeah.
yeah, that's the goal. It seems like that the deadline's for Tuesday, so hopefully, like Wednesday, maybe by end of Friday, they start fulfilling. So, talking about what's the mindset that you have, since you're the executive editor of the Ripazine, of what goes into the Ripazine, what doesn't, and of course, you've got the fact that there is, Michael and Lillian with their gossip. I
Mhm.
think you've got Revolver Rick, which I think is being introduced in Rippazine 4, and seems like he's coming back in Rippazine number 5. So,
Yep.
why don't you talk about that and see how, all that plays out, the process of making a Rippazine, since, of course, my assumption is that, like, you've got 5 have been made. So, what's the process of making a Rippazine? How does that go from your perspective?
So these are really fun to be a part of making, and we, especially after Zine 3, we really have been trying to take a lot of the feedback from the Zine response polls that we've sent out to people who actually purchased the thing. We tried to take that to heart and take that stuff into account as to what we decide to include, what we maybe don't include with the next issue, different ways that we decide to tackle things. So a couple of examples. One of the very, very common feedback bits after we sent out the polls for Rippazine #3 was that people didn't much care for the bird's eye view strip being just a single little, what was it, 3 or 4 panel strip that was like at the bottom of a page rather than a full page with like 6 or 7 panels like it traditionally had been. And we saw that. We said, okay, well, that's an easy pivot. We're going back to making a full page. So in Zine 4, you will receive a full page bird's eye view short. Same thing with Zine 5. I'm actually quite proud of both of those. And people who know me should, I think, get at least a little chuckle and a smile out of both of them. And I think that'll be the case. I'm pretty confident that. Another thing was that, and this was a little more tricky to implement based on how our release schedule was kind of panning out at the time. But a lot of you guys were saying that you would prefer that far more often the book previews that we put into the zine would be for books that aren't already out. Right. So we did a lot of catch up getting to this point with the prior issues of the zine. And so right now, as it stands, all of the books that, or all but one of the books that have preview pages in the in Zine 5 haven't even launched as a pre-order collection, right? So Norfolka, Glorious Death, #1, you'll be able to get previews on that. However, everything else, Lily and the Curse, Michael Black Eye Club, Great Dwarf Separation #3, those haven't even been announced in terms of like their launch date. So I'm excited to be able to actually give people more traditional previews as opposed to stuff that's like, hey, here's a preview of stuff that's already out. So a lot of our standard regular customers or regular fans, it's like, oh, that's cool, but like I already pre-ordered the full book, or I already have the full book and I've already read the full book. So that reduces, in my mind, and I think in a lot of the fans' mind, the value of that content if it's something that they already have there. Unless it's obviously, something that's like collected in a hardcover omnibus volume. That's different. That's a collector's piece, right? But thankfully, we were able to do that with Zine 5. And hopefully we'll be able to do that far more frequently down the road. That is going to probably be a thing where it kind of goes back and forth. Some of the previews might be stuff that's already out. Some of it might be stuff that's in pre-order right now. And some of it might be stuff that's like with the 3 other books in this one, not even launched yet. So hopefully it will start to lean more towards the latter, because I do want to give people a lot more value when it comes to that. It's important to provide value for the people who are your returning customers. Obviously, the Rippazine does really well for us at conventions as for like first time buyers. So people who have never heard of us before, they'll walk by our booth. We'll start to, get into chatting with them about our universe, and they'll say, hey, you know what? Super low barrier of entry here, $7 or $8, standard copy of this. It's not a huge investment on your part. Check out the previews, check out the short story. If one of those previews really tickles your fancy, you can either come back tomorrow and pick up the full book, or you can order it right off of our website and we'll send them there as well. So it's balancing how we're treating it as something that's supposed to be enticing to newer readers as well as to our regulars.
Yeah, the only preview I remember not having, actually, I think there was Welcome to Forest Park, and then there was Isom #3.
Isom 3, yeah.
Yeah, when I remember reading the Isom 3 preview and being like, I need the full book right now. That was in Rippazine #3, so that was a really cool thing. But have you thought of doing short stories from other companies in the Rippazine? I don't think that would work with what the Rippazine is, but is that something
it does
you
not.
got? Yeah.
Eric's been asked questions like that at conventions, on panels and things like that before. And the short answer is, at least for now, no. That would likely, if we started publishing, like, say, an anthology magazine that had short stories from other people not connected with us at all, and they're writing stories that are not connected with the Rippaverse at all. This would be maybe more of a Rip Ascend type thing. So that is something we could always explore down the line, but there's still plenty of time before we get there. Everything is
Yeah.
all about like pacing ourselves.
Yeah, I think a Rippazine would be really cool because I think the end goal of doing a Ripascend, like having Ripascend be like a storefront where people can go and just choose from a bunch of indie books. I think that's the end goal because right now it's very early days for Ripascend. It doesn't have like a solid storefront, so I think there's so much with the like the potential value of
Mhm.
Ripascend and having like a Ripascend zine where you can buy this one $8 book. You can get a preview of like 10, 5 to 10 5 to 10 books from Represent, and then you can buy which one you like. So that way
There's a
you
lot
don't.
of logistics to that,
Yeah,
because obviously, uh, then you have to start looking into, um, profit, delineation, and dividends up to, X number of creators and things like that. There's a lot that goes into that. Um, at that point, you're almost kind of like treating it like a Shonen Jump. But it is something that we can look at down the line as we continue to grow. Rip Ascend is still in its infancy. And so it's something we're going to be able to continue to do more and more with as it grows. We're doing a lot more with it this year, for example, than we did last year. Last year, we just, we released Achromatic Chronicles Green and the re-release of Blue. This year, we've released 3 already. There will be more on the way. So, it's one of those things where it's all about spinning up to what's reasonable for the demand.
yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to go about it. But I think like at some point, there's just so many cool things that can be done with Represent that
Absolutely.
I want to see that happen. I think like the foundation is there, and of course, I think that's the inevitable like path towards it. But yeah, I think having something like that where you had a Represent magazine would be the cool thing, and that would be the good way to like showcase stories from other creators. But having the Rippazine be entirely about the Rippaverse is what really I think I, as a fan of the Rippazine, wants, because every short story I've read for the Rippa in the Rippazine has been about the Rippaverse, and that's what you want when you're picking up the Rippazine. So
Correct.
that's really the way I view it, and I think that's the way the most of the fans view it, and it's a really great way to get people, like you said, into the door of the Rippaverse, especially at cons, because it's a lot less intimidating to the wallet to spend $8 on a Rippazine rather than spending the full 20, 25 on the bigger books. So let's see. So the Represent books are all creator owned, so it could get complicated contractually. Exactly. So yeah, it does get harder when you have like 10 different people you have to pay out for the books and all of that. So while it's not all about money, it's definitely going to be something that factors in.
If it's something you want to be able to continue to
Yeah,
do, then
exactly.
yes, it is money has to be taken into account. It has to be something that you can continue to reinvest in while it's not detracting away from your funds for other things that you're doing. We're not a big enough company where we can do something and consider it a loss leader. And we're using it and we know and are deliberately under the understanding and knowledge that it is going to be something that is not only not making a profit, but it's actually a net loss. But due to this thing we're doing here, it's going to result in a net growth and a net profit in other areas. That's what a lot of animation does, especially with like anime. Anime is a loss leader. It's the merch and everything else around it that sells like hotcakes. We're not big enough to be able to justify that just yet. I see what you're saying, other side of the fence. This is a matter of scale. You cannot do that as a small independent company like a large corporation can that is backed by a lot bigger money.
Uh, yeah, so I agree with that. So like having a loss leader is not something that you guys could do and stay solvent, and that's an important thing. So while I think a lot of people get stuck in this mindset where it's either, all about being a creative or it's all about money, and you can't, have creative integrity
Gotta be
and
able to
be
do both.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's the trap a lot of the indies fall into, is that they don't have any economic sense, they don't have any business sense, but they have a lot of creative sense, and they think that's going to save them, and it really doesn't. It's the unfortunate thing there. But with Catch and Kill, because we haven't
Mhm.
gotten that yet. That's Winston Farlow. I forget exactly the name of his
Winslow Valiant.
Winslow Valiant, right? Yeah. So he's going to be a journalist, and that's going to be a really interesting one. So with that, that's, I believe that's written by the Saskas, right? If I
Yes, it is. Those
Yeah.
are actually that's their first original title. Even though it's a short story, it's their first original title here at the Rippaverse. So with characters that they themselves created, rather than say Eric created Yaira, but they're the ones in charge of writing Yaira. Eric created Bloodruth, but they're the ones in charge of writing Bloodruth. Same thing with Michael and Lillian.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fantastic to see, like an original creator from the Saskas. And I believe when they were talking about it in the Q&A, it's like, you'd need to have like a Daily Planet or Daily Bugle like in the Rippaverse, and this is their idea of what that's going to look like. So that'll be
Exactly.
really interesting to see. And of course, love that art style. Definitely going to be really excited to review that one. Of course, Yaira #3 is starting fulfillment next week, so of course,
Starting tomorrow.
where where Yaira 2 left off. It's like I needed that #3, and the fact that it's happening as soon, like we're getting those two releases within the year, if I'm getting it correctly. So we're going to be. I mean, you guys are getting really consistent with release schedules. Hopefully, you're getting Alpha Core 2 number soon. Hopefully, you get Horseman #2 really soon, because that #1 issue, as people were saying, is that I think I saw a comment earlier saying like I wish I had 100 or so pages, or even more, like 30. I wish we had 30 more pages. It was so fun. I 100% agree with that. And I said in my review of Horseman #1, it's like really just makes you wish you had like the Horseman omnibus. You could just read through like 300 pages in a sitting. It's that good.
Chuck
And
has already written quite a lot of Horsemen,
yeah,
so there will be more Horsemen on the way sooner rather than later for y'all. Trust
I,
me.
really cool to see. So, of course, Sir Buck is saying, looking forward to the Winslow and Betty story. Every good comic book story would need those journalists. Yes. It's also just there's just so much interesting stuff. They could be going to like Madwire and looking into that, and Gooding Services and what he's doing. Could be like the events of ISM 1 and that fallout, and trying to
Mhm.
like investigate like who did Yaira chuck into a car, and what happened to him, and what's the what happened with Alpha Core, like Eagles Test, and Alpha Core 1 is such a big event. There's going to be
Mhm.
investigations. I'd love to see Winslow and Betty snooping around and trying to figure out why that went the way that it did. And of course,
I
like
think
how
Catch and Kill, the short story, is going to be a bit of a sleeper hit for people, maybe retroactively. I think people that picked up the zine are going to read that and really want more.
Yeah, no, I think so. But every Rippazine short story I've read, I've always wanted more. Like I love Salvage, I love Saoirse, and honestly, with I think I like Salvage as a character more than Saoirse. Of course, Saoirse is just this very voluptuous, sultry redhead who's got this perfect control for feminine wiles, and of course, she's got all the combat skills as well. So she's
Saoirse's
just
beautiful. I love Saoirse,
yeah,
but I will agree that I actually like the salvage story more than the Saoirse story.
yeah, and of course, I love the idea, like the concept of Salvage having super hearing. Of course, he's got like his like hat that he can use, like kind of like Kung Lao, I think.
Yep. Yeah, it's more of a
So
combat there.
yeah, yeah. So that is going to be really cool. And it's just going to be, and I just love the noir style of John Salvage. And I think it's going to be really cool to see Lethal Force. But of course, we're going to see how he plays into the broader Rippaverse. Of course, we've got three people who have the LF certification in Floor Spark. We know Salvage, we know Saoirse, we don't know about the third. I'm sure we'll find out eventually.
Oh,
Um,
yes, you will.
yes, exactly. But that's NDA for now. just like Jay Brown's next project, which I didn't add him when I did my Horseman review. I didn't know he had a Twitter account. I do now, so I got to remember to do that. I believe he's the colorist for Yaira as well, right? So Yaira number 3.
Jay Brown is the colorist on Yaira. He was the colorist on Gooding. He was the colorist on Horseman. He is currently coloring another project. He's the colorist on the Dokemon cards. Jay Brown colors a lot for us. The dude's a machine.
Yeah, well, and
He
does
also
great.
colored the special Isom Dokemon card that was that's currently available as part of the action figure collection.
Oh yeah, and I actually ordered 2 of those, so one of those I will be giving away. So once I get that card, I'm going to be doing a big epic giveaway. I'll give away some comics. I think a Blood Roof plushie as well. I'll come
Very
up
cool.
with some way to do like a first, second, and third. The first prize will get basically the card, the plushie, and then a pick of their comic. And then
Well, you let me know. I'll be happy to help promote that.
yeah, definitely. So, and I'll do it for like a month or so I can get a bunch of people into it, and then I'll ship it out for UPS, and so that way I can do like internationally as well. No, it'll be a pretty penny, but it's a nice thing to do for the fans. So we'll see how we'll see what that card is, and of course, there's going to be so many cool things going on. Of course, we've got a Rippazine fulfilling. We've got a Rippazine that just launched. We've got we're number 3 fulfilling. Of course, there's going to be more projects that are going to be coming down the grapevine because there's 14 books that are supposed to come out with the Rippaverse. And I guess if you got more time, what is the status of the Rippaverse? Because the last one or the first one was in December of 24. Is there any plans to have one soon? Because I feel like another one sometime this year would be justified. And it was a really cool event for the fans the first time it happened. I would absolutely love to see one again and give my not only give my commentary on it, but just enjoy it as an event.
I'm sure we'll have another one soon.
That's all.
It was fun. It was fun to put together. And it was fun to have that sort of like not game awards, but your game developers conference, your all of those different shows, right, where things get revealed for the first time and whatnot. And that was a fun thing to kind of try and do. And I think indie comics in general has a really good opportunity to try and lean into that. I think maybe like even the I don't know what their back end looks like in terms of how far out they start making deals in terms of setting up projects with the various crowdfunding creators out there. But a platform like Fund My Comic could like think about doing that with the various indie creators that they're doing, like say Dave Brinks, right? And I believe Vaughn is going to be probably adding his Phenomenova 3 over to Fund My Comic if it's not already on there. And Rini, she's had hers on there. So I think that would be something really worth looking into. Treat it like an event. Indie comics should be celebrated. And I think we should all be working together far more than we are working in opposition. Because I think the more excited you get people for good indie comics, the better on net that's going to be for the medium and the industry as a whole.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think Fund My Comics is a great platform. Of course, Heroic Tales is on there. Dave Brink, I was talking about Genuine Comics. He's got Perfect 10, and he hit his funding goal pretty quickly.
Yeah,
and like I said,
hours or less than 24 hours.
Yeah, like I said, that guy should be making 6 figures with the work that he does because he does fantastic work.
He's got a great artist on his project.
Oh yeah. Power
Rodricks is
like that guy's a beast with his art. And of course he's got great stuff to draw because 10 is like really, really attractive. And it's not like I said, Marvel and DC, they really just denigrated any idea of beauty, and that kind of makes it hard to make good art when you can't draw these beautiful characters that really exemplify the human form for both males and females. But Garfield's Bizarre Adventure said, would you guys ever considering having a Rini or Vaughn Coleman have a guest slot at one of your booths?
I don't see why not, though, to be fair, I'm also not the person in charge of all that, but I would absolutely love to hang out with either or both of them, along with other creators, at any of the cons that we're able to make it out to. I don't believe either of them have been at any of the cons that we've put on our docket thus far, but I would love for that to change. And as we continue to grow, as we continue to have more success, thanks to the fans, we'll be able to hit more cons on the con circuit, um, time allowing, because we also have a lot of stuff still going on. But that'd be fantastic. I'd love to do that. I love Vaughn. I think he's a great, great young creative. I really like Phenomenova issues 1 and 2. I'm looking forward to 3. I love Rini. I love her art style. I love her creative mind. I think she's a sweetheart. I think she has an immense level of creativity to her, building out a world in a very Tolkien-esque manner. That's not easy to do. There's a lot that goes into that, and she understands that, and she puts that effort into it.
Yeah, the Fiendish universe has its own language.
Yeah.
That's hardcore. And the art that she does for Fiendish, and I mentioned this when I reviewed Fiendish, is really, really good. It's probably
It's stellar work.
Yeah, it's probably some of the best art you'll see in indie comics. And it's
And just
just
comics in general, honestly.
yeah, I honestly I would agree with it. Just comics in general, like you probably would not find
I'd put
art.
that book up against the vast majority of the mainstream industry, and
Yeah,
it'll
no,
come out on top.
I would agree wholeheartedly. Like it's really good and it's laid out well, and I love the character designs, and it's like I ought to like read it again before I get Fiendish 3 so I can wrap my head around it. It's a fantastic series, and I really hope that she gets to do more of it. And I mean, she probably make over $50,000 if the collection is or campaign is going to end. So I feel like the fans are giving her that mandate to just keep on going, which is fairly fantastic to see. So other side of the fence is asking, what's Blue Shift's symbol about?
So Kane and White actually designed that. So there's an Andrew sketch of Zephyr's suit here, one of his suits. So there's going to be a tease there. So just as I said that kind of Sonic and Spidey make up a great deal of DNA and inspiration for his character, I do plan on playing around with various suits. So various maybe prototype suits. Maybe there's suits that he uses later on for different things. You'll see. That's obviously God allowing that I actually get to do more. So you guys got to tell me if you actually like the thing and you want more. But as far as the design of the logo, no, it is not a crossbow. That's actually going to be a narrative bit that you guys will have to find out. But that was a beautiful addition to the design that Kane and White made when he was helping me refine my initial design. And he simplified a few things, he shifted a few things around, and he wound up coming up with that really cool logo symbol on his chest. Because initially I'm not much of an artist. I definitely don't have any talent when it comes to like logo and symbol design. And so thank God for Kanan, because all I kind of had there was like a simple diamond shaped thing. And he was like, we can do better than that. And I was like, you can do better than that. I can't do better than that.
Really nice to see. And of course, Mike is making this observation that the art in the mainstream isn't matching what a lot of the independents are doing these days. And of course, that's a sad spot because Marvel and DC and all the bigger companies could really afford to get great talent. If you read Battle Beast, Ryan Otley's a really good artist, and Robert Kirkman actually gets good people to do good work for him. But that's not the mindset of the rest of the people who are, Image is technically independent, but they're a really large indie company. So, but we'll see. With that. But I agree with Mike has bad names. I haven't, I don't really read a lot of Marvel and DC stuff or really any of the modern stuff at all. But I've seen some stuff and it's like, well, yeah, the art just looks bland. It looks generic. And of course, all these stories are not really inspiring anybody to put these books on their pull list. And that's
as
why.
Somebody who frequents their LCS actually on a weekly basis, I hit it up on my way home from the office every Wednesday. I am reading a bunch of mainstream books right now. And the truth is, there is a lot of meh and bleh that you have to sift through to get to the gems. And gems in terms of the art side, there are several books that have ridiculously good art. Sometimes it's hit and miss as to whether or not that art matches the story. Sometimes you get a absolute beautiful interior for a book, but the story just doesn't quite hit, doesn't quite land, or it's written by somebody who it's like, man, why are you giving this person all of the good artists? Because they're not They're not writing these characters in a way that actually makes sense for the characters, and adhering to like the history and the lore and the love that is around these characters. You gotta do both. You gotta do both. Comics are a visual medium, and while you can have art that is very stylistic, that it's going to be for some people and not for others, you still do need to do your due diligence, and
Yeah.
you wanna produce good looking work.
Yeah, and there are basic rules to making art, because drawing is the act of marketing services, and I'm been trying to learn how to draw, and I try and draw every day. I've been, when you work 2 jobs and you're working overnight, it's hard to do that, hard to make that happen. But there are rules to drawing. There are rules to making stuff look good, and still be stylistically pleasing. And that's the thing. Someone like Narwhal, he draws in a very absurdist style. He does play
Is a
with that.
very, very heavily stylized the
Yeah,
way that
but
he
he
draws.
still he knows these rules, but
Mhm.
he chooses to bend them in just the right ways. Where I think he does really fantastic stuff. In Vatican
I
City,
agree.
and Vatican City is where I haven't read the issue. I lost my review the email that had my review copy for Vatican 3. I have not been able to
Mm.
find it. So I need to read number 3 because like I don't know how it ends. But Vatican City is his best work because for Mike Miller, he really toned down his style, and but it's still really good, and it still has that charm that he is known for. But he really toned it down and made it look more, I don't want to say corporate, but made it look clean, a bit cleaner. And
Mhm.
definitely the line work was tighter on that. But having that understanding of what makes art good is really what you need to have as an artist. And I think you have pretentiousness where artists just, I'll do what I want. I'm the most important person. Whatever. But like you said, you have to do your due diligence. So I 100% agree with that. Of course, Garfield is poking fun at me, saying if the Rippaverse makes a story set in the ancient Roman Empire, that I would go crazy. I honestly would. I think you would go crazy as well. But
I
there's so
think
many.
we all would collectively.
Yeah, and I think honestly, doing it in like the first century, because of course, you have the, you know, revelation in item number 3 that revelation happened in the Rippaverse. So you could have something take place in first century Galilee, and that would be the Roman Empire, since of course, Christ talks about the coin of give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is
Render
God.
unto
That's
Caesar
explicit.
what is Caesar's, yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's Tiberius, who was the emperor after Augustus. But anyway, I'm not going to get into
You
talking
almost
about the
did.
get into the role. Almost did, but I'm not going to do that. So some don't like the manga style, some don't like traditional Western style. It's all about personal preference. I 100% agree with
Correct.
that. So you can do the best manga art, and if you don't like manga, then it's not going to vibe with you. And the same thing goes with American comics. Same thing goes with Narwhal stuff. Same thing goes with basically anything. Um, let's see.
Exactly.
So we'll see. I don't know. So manga is don't like manga because it's 90% story. I don't know what you're talking. I like manga. And
I love
honestly,
manga.
yeah, and honestly, manga's. I wouldn't say manga is not just nice. It depends on the manga. Like, of course, some manga is really story heavy. Some manga is very action heavy. But I wouldn't say something like Dragon Ball is
Manga's like
almost.
any other storytelling
Yeah.
medium. You're gonna have a combination of, depending on the genre and depending on the storyteller, you're gonna have things that are all across the board. Stuff that's gonna be very mentally taxing to read, not because it's difficult to understand, but because it's really in-depth storytelling that's going on there on the page. Stuff that's maybe a lot more dialogue heavy. But then you have a lot of stuff where, and this doesn't even apply to all shonen action mangas, but you have a lot of shonens that are less on the dialogue, unless it's your kind of standard back and forth while they're fighting, right? And doing cool stuff on the page and in the panels. But you still have plenty of shonens that are also doing heavy storytelling in the process as well. So it's I don't I don't like to paint with a broad brush. So I think there's room for everything, really.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. And while the Roman Empire likely predates Gyra's arrival, there would be a blood roof roaming around back then. And technically, I'm sure the Eastern Roman Empire existed at the time of Gyra's arrival. So I think like the West probably fell before Yaira came onto the scene, but I'm sure the Byzantines still existed. That's my theory, because it seems like Yaira came to Gorm around, I don't know, 8 or 900. That's my guess, and the Byzantines were still pretty solidly around by then.
I wouldn't know nothing about that.
Yeah, of course you don't. Manga is fantastic. JoJo's a masterpiece, especially Steel Ball Run. Looking forward to the anime coming out hopefully soon. I'm so behind on manga and anime. Let's see. So, good question though. How far does the bloodline extend? I imagine it extends all the way back to Cain. That's my understanding from reading Bloodroof #1. But of course, Andrew's going to neither confirm nor deny.
Read Bloodroof #1. In
Yeah,
fact, when Bloodroof #2 comes out, which is being colored as we speak, read that.
you'll get the
Maybe
answers.
maybe if you examine it closely enough, you'll get a little bit more of an inkling.
Yes. But yeah, that's my under. And when I think I did my first episode of Braxcast Live, Garfield, is I actually bring up some stuff from Genesis and even Deuteronomy to make the case that the bloodline of the Blood Roots goes all the way back to Cain. But of course, I don't think that's either here or there. Let's see. So, anything else that you guys want to talk about before I think we sign off, because we covered Blue Shift, we talked about Rippazine in general, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff with the Rippaverse. So I'm kind of like at a loss of what else to talk about before we get into spoiler territory. This has been a fantastic conversation, Andrew. I'm so glad I could get you on this Braxcast, because of course this was the one where I would go into Rippazine #5, and having the writer of Rippazine #5 of the short story for Rippazine #5, along with you being the executive editor, is always a really cool thing. And I think once the fans get access to Blue Shift tryouts, I think it would be really, really cool to get you in a sit down interview, and we talk like all about the process of Blue Shift tryouts.
I would absolutely love to.
Yeah, so that'd be a fantastic thing to do as a structured, pre-recorded thing, so we don't have to deal with like the chat trying to get me to talk about the Roman Empire, or specifically Garfield, because he's the one who wants to derail. But anyway, I still love all you guys. So, any other things that like you want to talk about, or the chat wants to talk about? If not, I think it's good that we've been streaming for a bit over an hour. I think good to do that there, unless you guys have any questions. And Garfield does have a question saying, will the Rippazine be a seasonal magazine, one per quarter? I think that's where you guys are trying to get to.
That's our aim, is to try and make it a quarterly thing. A lot of it also has to deal with where we can slot it in our release schedule. We're not trying to necessarily overly inundate you guys, but we are taking ourselves seriously as a publisher. In order to take yourself serious as a publisher, you have to actually publish. So we are putting out a lot of stuff, a lot of books. And I know that can get strenuous sometimes on people. That's why we always make sure to leave at least one version of every single release available so that people can catch up at their leisure, because we do want to make sure we're continuing to grow out our universe. And slotting in the Rippazines quarterly seems like that's probably the sweet spot. Hopefully next year we'll have a far more structured kind of release schedule for the Rippazines. That would be ideal. That's my hope and my aim. I'm pushing really hard for that. So fingers crossed that ends up being the case, because it does end up being a nice little, I guess, palate cleanser, if you will, as well as tease for like, oh, so we've got potential to get something like this in the Rippaverse if we respond well enough to it, right? Like with Salvage and Search, Dirty Deeds, Catch and Kill, hope, God willing, Blue Shift, so hopefully we get to continue to do that. I'm very proud of the zine. I'm very proud of Blue Shift. And Blue Shift, I think, is going to be an integral part of our Rippaverse as we move forward, because our universe currently has a lot of darker characters, has a lot of darker storytelling. And it's important to provide a little light that can shine through the darkness. And Zephyr is meant to be that light. He's meant to be the character that adds a little bit of levity, adds some gentleness. One of the meanings behind the word Zephyr is gentle heart. And there's a reason for that. That's very deliberate. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. This is going to be an early years introduction to Zephyr Arland, who will be hopefully our in-universe kind of wisecracking, lighthearted, heart of gold speedster character that will provide a lot of laughs, provide storytelling that will be good for a younger audience, so
Yeah.
preteens and up. And this is going to introduce him and his entire surrounding cast, his co-stars, if you will, into our universe. And I think you guys are going to love them. Um, the story sets up quite a lot and it teases quite a lot. And people who've been reading a lot of our books thus far up to this point will get extra Easter eggs if they're paying close enough attention.
Yeah, fantastic. I love stuff like that. Of course, Garfield sent me this video, and I'm not going to watch it on stream, but I think this is absolutely hilarious. But I'll definitely get into watching that Garfield. So thanks for sending me that funny video. Of course, Alpha Core 2 is probably my most anticipated book. You said that's
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's being
And
colored.
yeah, it's being colored. So hopefully we get that campaign or collection real soon. Get to dive into it. And like you said, it's going to make sense once Alpha Core 2 is, in the hands of the fans, why it took so long for it to come out. And of course, we got Horseman #1, we got Salem, and those ended up being great books. So I'm not entirely satisfied, but I understand why Chuck and Joe took so long to get Alpha Core 2 done because they were working on those two books, and those are really good books. And I'm really glad that those came out because it's fantastic work. But let's see. I think that was really it. Talked about there's some other stuff that Student of God was wanting me to talk about, but I think I'll save that stuff to talk about next week. This was a pretty packed show. Really got to dive into Blue Shift. Really, really interesting to see your thought process behind the character himself. And of course, I really love this, younger audience, this Heart of Gold character that really takes inspiration like Spider-Man and Sonic. And of course, having a speedster as well in a high school, there's just so many things. It's I really want this to do well, and I'd love to have at least a limited series exploring, the character, just like with Dirty Deeds, at least 200 pages or so, just to give us a really meaty introduction to what this character is about.
I hope you feel that way after you read the short story.
Hopefully I do. Hopefully I do as well. But like I said, I've liked everything from the Rippazine in terms of the short stories, and I don't think I will dislike Blue Shift because, of course, I'm biased. I've been with you guys since Item 1, so that going to color my opinions. But I haven't had any reason to dislike anything you guys have put out with the Rippaverse. So we'll see how all of that goes. But yeah, definitely just like I said, looking forward to Rippazine 5. Of course, Rippazine #4 is going to be fulfilling soon. So that's going to be really, really
hopefully
cool.
this week.
Yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully this week, but it seems like next week is guaranteed. This week is a bit up in the air. But it's just really cool that the Rippazine's coming out consistently. You guys are releasing stuff consistently, and you guys are acting as an actual comic book publisher. Who would have thunk that would be possible?
We're doing our best over here.
Exactly. So anything else you want to say? Anything else you guys have questions for Andrew? If not, I think I'm cool ending it here. Been going a bit over an hour. I think that's a good length for these streams, but we'll see about it. We'll see how it goes. If any of you guys have any questions. If not, I'm going to end the stream here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and of course, going to be doing the Braxcast next Saturday. And we'll be talking about more stuff on live stream. I'll probably go back. I will be going back to Fridays because
I'll be talking Blue Shift and general Rippaverse stuff over on Two Geeks and a Microphone Tuesday evening.
Yeah, and I think next Saturday we're going to be doing Horseman #1. Hopefully I can get off of work in time to not delay you guys, but we're doing another round table with Toxic Nick and I think JT, and we'll be doing that next Saturday. So you guys really like the one that we did on Great War Separation #2, so we're doing that with Horseman #1. So that's going to be in the cards. So I know Garfield, you wanted us to do that again, and that is in the cards for us to do. And since it seems like Horseman has been read by most of you guys. It's going to be a really fun discussion. Like, yeah, like the Nick Waters stream was awesome. So we're doing another one of those, and that'll be next Saturday. So do Friday, Braxcast live. We'll do Saturday, my typical episode I do of Braxcast, and then we'll do, that live stream later in the night. So it's going to be really, really exciting. But don't have anything else for you guys. So it seems like there isn't anything else. So I'm going to end it here. You guys enjoyed it. Any last words you want to say, Andrew?
Make sure you guys are checking out Dave Brink's Perfect 10 over in Fun My Comic. Make sure you guys are checking out Von Coleman's Kickstarter for Phenomenova issue 3. Make sure you guys are checking out Death Shroud over on Rippazine. And I guess, please get a copy of Rippazine number 5.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. We are out. You guys have a good night.